Daniel is taken to Babylon. The next Old Testament prophet that we're going to study is Daniel. The king commanded Ashpenaz, the chief eunuch, to bring some of the people of Israel, both of the royal family and of the nobility. Among these were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah of the tribe of Judah. In chapter 1, we learn that the prophet, he prophesied when? Well, it was during 6th century BC. And that means that he prophesied at the same time that the prophet Jeremiah and the prophet Ezekiel prophesied. In chapter 7 through 12, the prophecy developed that there would be a world power that would rise up. And who would it be? Well, it would be Greece later on after Daniel died. The prophet Daniel, he started his ministry while he was exiled into Babylon. And this was the year 605 BC, and it was after King Nebuchadnezzar had first invaded another country, Palestine. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. At that time, King Nebuchadnezzar, he was successful at invading Jerusalem. That's in Judah. And these people are called the Judahites. And this means that the people of Judah, that, Yahweh was their king. Yahweh, the Lord God of Israel. Did this mean that he had lost against him? Lost his power against Nebuchadnezzar? No, it did not mean that. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim king of Judah into his hand, with some of the vessels of the house of God, and he brought them to the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and placed the vessels in the treasury of his God. Question: did Babylon possess Jerusalem because God was weak? Because he could not protect Jerusalem? No. God used Nebuchadnezzar. He used him as a tool, as a rod, so that he could discipline his people. That's why. It was because they were sinning against God. And that's why it was easy for them to get them. John Calvin, a preacher from a long time ago, he said that King Nebuchadnezzar, he said that he did not possess Jerusalem and was not the conqueror of the nation by his own valor or counsel or good luck. No, but because God wished to humble his people. We will study the book of Daniel, and we will learn again. We will see that God, he is sovereign over everything, sovereign over all things. Now let's apply this to our Christian life. God himself, the Lord, he is sovereign throughout history. And his sovereignty develops, he causes kingdoms to rise and to fall by his decree. That's his decision. Whatever law is passed, it's like that. A law that's passed, it's his decree, it will happen. He has ordained it from eternity past. And that is a truth that comforts us. If we know for sure that God is sovereign over all things, then we know that all things that happens throughout history are his purpose. If we can't understand his purpose, then whatever happens, we wouldn't trust him. But we know that we can't. Whatever happens, big or small, it doesn't matter. God uses them for 2 things. First, for his glory, and secondly, for our good. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. Our understanding that God is sovereign over all things is the only way that we can be confident that that verse, Romans 8:28, is true. When I was a young Christian, I thought that God was sovereign, yes, but over some things, but not over all things. Why? Because of Satan. I thought it was like a tug of war that they had, where they pull the rope back and forth. That's what I thought. I thought God can't be sovereign over all things. Yes, that's what I thought. Satan, it seemed, that he was, there's so much sinning going around. He had to have some control over that. Could God have control over all sinning? And what about suffering? Could God have control over all that? What about suffering? There's a lot of suffering. Could God have control over all that? It's hard for me to accept. But I learned that God is so sovereign. He is so wise. He knows what he's doing. I accepted that God was sovereign. And that made my prayer life better. And also it comforted me to know that everything that happened, everything that I saw has a purpose, even if I didn't understand it. God the Father cherishes us and he keeps his promises to us. We should trust in him and persevere in that. Coram Deo.